Hey, how's it going guys? Nate here, and today I'd like to talk about whether Battlefield 1 will go the routes of Battlefield 4, where years after its initial release it still maintains a strongly active community, or the way of Titanfall and Battlefront, where despite initially offering much promise, soon after the release suffering a rapidly deteriorating community. So why did Battlefield 4 succeed, but Titanfall and Battlefront games of that like fail, and what can Battlefield 1 do to incorporate these lessons? I think the biggest failure of Titanfall wasn't necessarily the lack of customization and weapons, as most people attribute it to be, but the lack of goals and incentives to play, which was a product of just that. It's not enough for an FPS's gameplay to just be good anymore, you also need to have a reason to play these games, a goal to strive towards, and Titanfall ultimately lacked that. Once you had reached level 50, all the weapons, Titan chassis, abilities, and grenades, they were all unlocked and at your full disposal, and all that was really left to do was grind out for the remaining weapons attachments. However, the game only boasted 10 guns, and not everybody was particularly fond of all of them. For instance, many players, myself included, like to treat snipers a bit like cancer and do everything they can to avoid them, which only further limits the selection of weapons. Once you did reach level 50 and you got all your attachments, you would effectively beat Titanfall. There's no reason left to get on, no goals to pursue, and sure, the game did offer a sort of prestige system similar to Call of Duty's. It never really merited much grinding, as all it did offer was a small accolade next to your name. You had effectively defeated Titanfall within the first 12 to maybe 40 hours once you hit that level 50. Now at this point, what's looking like an obvious parallel here, so to speak, is Call of Duty. It's done pretty much everything that I have just criticized, yet still enjoys rather enormous success, and one of the most active communities to date. And the reason for that I believe can be attributed to the fact that Call of Duty titles typically have a wider selection of weapons to use, and camos, which offer unique and rather difficult goals to acquire. People want to go out and grind for gold, or diamond, or royalty camo. People now have the motivation and incentive to play Call of Duty, and that's something that Titanfall fundamentally lacked. All it's left to do is make sure the gameplay at its core isn't particularly repetitive, and you've got a very good formula. Now, in fairness, no Call of Duty, with perhaps the exception of Black Ops 2, has been able to consistently maintain a significant number of players for more than about a year. So what did Battlefield 4 do so differently, so that it was able to maintain such a significant active player base for now going on 3 years after its initial launch? Well, for starters, Battlefield 4 boasts a whopping 96 weapons. Titanfall had 10. Black Ops 3 had about 40. And while Battlefield has never been a game in which camos were something the developers depended on to provide incentive to play, this wide weapon selection offered a challenge for many players to take on. They wanted to master all the weapons. Battlefield 4 also offered battle packs, and while I may disagree with the fact that you could purchase them with microtransactions and whatnot, they were generally earned by just playing the game, and gave out things like camos and attachments for sometimes random weapons, which only added further incentives to play the game and try out new weapons. You know, when you got what you thought to be a rare camo for a weapon you've never used before, or a cool attachment for a weapon you don't use that often, you wanted to try it out, and perhaps you get attached to that new gun, and you'd kind of take on a new style of play. That's what these battle packs encouraged so well. Furthermore, something else that Battlefield 4 got down rather successfully, and just judging by the alpha footage, Battlefield 1 probably will too, is vehicles. Not only do they offer something else to grind for, as they have their own unique tiers of equipment and segments of camos that can be unlocked, but they also offer a rather pleasant break from the consistent run-and-gun style typical whenever you want to play infantry, ensuring that it's never too easy for the gameplay to get repetitive. Whenever you're getting bored grinding for battle packs, just hop in a tank or a jet or hell, even a boat. And while Battlefield 1's time period of World War I does kind of limit its vehicular options, as we've seen in the gameplay, they're still rather strong in that department. Tanks, planes, armored cars, horses, and motorcycles are all still present, and while BTRs and LAVs aren't likely to make an appearance, frankly, I'd rather be on a horse anyway. Also helping to combat repetitive gameplay was that Battlefield 4 was consistently given more support, even after the initial release of Hardline. DLC and Free LC continuously offered new maps, weapons, modes, vehicles. Essentially, they offered more Battlefield 4 as they get deeper and deeper into the game's lifecycle. So when the player base may have began to get bored with an aspect of the game, there was always new content about to rebolster and drop to keep that from happening as often as possible. So in a weird sort of conclusion, I think by looking at and accounting for the things that made Battlefield 4 so successful, and what kept COD going, and what made Titanfall just crumble so early on, we can deduct a sort of checklist of what Battlefield 1 should try its best to prioritize and strive to include. DICE should shoot for as vast a selection of weapons as possible. Hell, maybe even consider bringing battle packs back into the picture as well. And while I express caution with microtransactions, they do offer an incentive to play and encourage trying out new weapons. make vehicles both diverse and abundant, something I think they're really nailing here, and continue the trend of supporting Battlefield titles for as long as humanly possible. If DICE and EA are up to do this, if they're up for combining all these ideals and ideas and lessons into one gigantic cocktail of a game, I am 100% certain this October when Battlefield 1 releases, it will be a pretty damn amazing product. One with the longevity and gameplay depth of Battlefield 4, only significantly amplified. That's the goal here, and maybe, just maybe, 3 years down the line, we're still uploading and making videos with Battlefield 1 gameplay in the background. That would be insane. But anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed. If you liked this video, please leave a like down below. Dislike if you disliked. If there's a point you feel I left out of this video, something I missed, leave a comment down below. Thanks for watching again, guys, and I hope to see you all in my next video. Peace out, everybody.